Hey friends, welcome to my YouTube channel. I am going to start new series of Pokemon What If. I hope you will like it. In this series, we will get to see if Ash had a different starter to start his journey. I hope you will like the story and like the video. Please subscribe to the channel and leave a comment if you all want me to make animated video. Let's start the video. It was late at night in Pallet Town. Stores had closed hours ago, and most people had already gone to sleep for the night. There were few sounds at this time to disturb anyone in the rural community. It was very tranquil and peaceful. There was still one light on in Pallet Town, however. It showed from the second-story window of the bedroom of a two-story house. The said bedroom belonged to Ash Ketchum. It had been 3 years since he was at Pallet Town summer camp. Now, he was 10 years of age, and tomorrow would be the day he would finally begin his journey to be a Pokemon master. It had been the only thing he had thought about the entire day. He currently had the television turned on to a Pokemon battle between a Gengar and Nidorino. Gengar was of the ghost/poison type Pokemon and was dark purple in color with its face in a mischievous grin. It had protrusions coming from its back that resembled spikes. Nidorino was a poison-type Pokemon and was dark pink and resembled a large rabbit. It had a large horn protruding from its forehead. The Pokemon belonged to members of the Elite Four themselves. Gengar belonged to Agatha, and Nidorino belonged to Bruno. Despite the intensity of the battle, Ash wasn't paying it much mind. He was too focused on his journey for tomorrow. Ash's mother had just bought him some new clothes for his journey earlier that day, which he was currently trying on. They consisted of a plain black, short-sleeved shirt with a pair of blue jeans. Over the black shirt, he had on a blue jacket with white short sleeves which he wore open. On his hands were a pair of black, fingerless gloves with green edgings. He was also wearing his favorite red and white hat. It was the official Pokemon League hat. Ash claimed he had to send in about 1 million postcards to win it, which made it very special to him. All right. Tomorrow is finally the day, Ash said to himself. My dream to become a Pokemon master is going to begin. He then picked up an alarm clock in the shape of a Pokeball and held it out in front of him. I will be the very best like no one ever was. That is what I. Ash. Get to bed. The sudden appearance of Delia Ketchum, his mother, in the doorway and her shout startled Ash so much that he threw the alarm clock across the room. Luckily, Delia caught it. It then opened up and revealed a mechanical Pidgeot that was cuckooing. Ash's mother was a woman in her late 30s with brown eyes and long brown hair which was tied into a ponytail. She was currently wearing her nightrobe. It's late, Ash, Delia continued. Tomorrow is the day you start your Pokemon journey. You need your rest so you don't oversleep and get a late start. I know, Mom. I'm just so excited for tomorrow that I'm not tired. I'll go to bed real soon, though. I promise, Ash replied. Fine. You have 10 more minutes, and then I want to see you in bed, young man, Delia told him with her hands on her hips. She then walked over to the television and set down his Pidgeot clock before she changed the channel. In the meantime, at least watch something a little more educational. With that, Delia walked out of the room. Ash turned to the television. The channel she had changed it to featured Professor Oak discussing the 3 starter Pokemon that trainers could choose from. They consisted of Charmander, Bulbasaur, and Squirtle. Trainers may only choose one, and each one had its strengths and weaknesses that would serve trainers differently depending on the circumstance. For all you future Pokemon trainers out there, Professor Oak began, I'd like to present to you the starter Pokemon. They are Bulbasaur, the grass type, Charmander, the fire type, and Squirtle, the water type. One of these 3 powerful Pokemon await you and will be your loyal companion, but remember, Pokemon are also your friends. Perhaps you will choose Bulbasaur, whose razor-sharp leaves and vines can cut through the thickest forest. Maybe Charmander, whose strong body is sure to be useful in tough climates, or perhaps Squirtle is more to your liking, who can get you across any body of water. They all look so good. It will be a really tough choice, Ash thought. He did know that whomever he chose would be the best friend Ash could ask for. He couldn't wait to meet his future partner tomorrow. Today is finally the day, Ash thought as finished tying his tennis shoes. It was the next morning, and he had been waiting for this moment a long time. Ash was pumped. He ran out of his room, down the stairs, and then burst into the kitchen. His mother, Delia, had just finished cooking him a big breakfast. Ash, this is the last meal I'm going to cook for you in a while, so I hope you're hungry. I made plenty, Delia said as set the plate of food down on the table. Ash looked hungrily at the plate of food in front of him. I consisted of a stack of pancakes and plenty of bacon on the side. Thanks, Mom. Ash said as he began to dig in. It all tasted so good. He really would miss his mom's cooking while he was gone. Oh, my baby is going on his Pokemon journey. You're growing up so fast. Delia said as she began to tear up as Ash finished his breakfast. Mom. Ash muttered in an embarrassed tone, but Delia ignored it. Now, Professor Oak is waiting for you, Ash. You should go ahead to the lab. You don't want to be late, do you? Delia asked him. It was then that Ash looked at the clock. He only had 10 minutes until he was supposed to be at Professor Oak's lab. Oh, no. I'm running late. Ash exclaimed as he dashed out of the house. Make sure to stop by the house again before you leave. Delia called after him. Okay. Ash shouted back. Ash had a few Pokemon in mind for his team. First on the list was a Dragonite. They were nearly impossible to find and catch in the wilds, but if he managed to win enough at the game corner, he could buy one or maybe trade for one over the interregional network. It was the only reliable way to get those incredibly rare Pokemon. But he wasn't foolish enough to think that he was just going to catch one out of the blue. He was planning a trip to the Safari Zone once it opens back up. But now was the time to focus on becoming a trainer, not on his future captures. He's worked very hard to get here and he wasn't going to waste time thinking too far ahead. A lot has changed in the last year regarding his Pokemon trainer career. Last year, while he and his mom were living in Celadon City, he was near the bottom in his class except when it came to battling. His mom, being a brilliant researcher, was furious. She was very studious and wouldn't allow her son to slack off in school. Under the threat of postponing his journey, he was required to accompany her to the research lab once a week to learn, and so she could keep an eye on him so that he didn't slack in his homework. His grades quickly turned around. From number 17 in the class he quickly became number 3. Not the top, but he never lost a battle, and that was the most important part to him. Ash mindlessly put away his clothes and packed his new travel backpack to the brim with everything he'd possibly need. His mother spent a lot of money on the storage capsules. They worked in a similar way to Pokeballs in that they can dematerialize objects and keep them in a sort of stasis. It was what allowed people to travel the continents without having to restock every few days or worry about running out of clothes. Not to mention all the camping supplies and gear that would need a truck to carry otherwise. He had a full camping set and cooking supplies stored in his backpack, none of it weighing more than a couple of pounds. Ash, come down and meet Professor Oak, called his mother. He could hear the excitement in her voice from seeing their visitor. Smiling to himself, he threw on his backpack, put his pokeger into his pocket and ran downstairs. The man next to his mother was of average height and had noticeable features showing that he was in his elder years, but not so far that he didn't retain most of his brown hair. He wore a white lab coat over his dress shirt and slacks with a kind smile on his face. Ash froze in place at the sight of the living legend and found that speaking was impossible. His face became red when he heard his mother whisper about how much of a fan he was of the man, prompting a large smile from the renowned professor. Well, Ash, my boy, it's a pleasure to meet you, started Oak with his smile still on his face. It seems that you're already ready to go, so I won't waste much time. Your test scores for the Pokemon Trainer exam showed you're more than ready to face the challenges of a trainer. If you'll follow me, we can get your starter Pokemon from my lab. Alright! Shouted Ash before his eyes widened and he clamped a hand over his mouth. His mother shook her head amusedly while the professor led them out towards his lab with a pleased expression on his face. He was happy to see a young man that applied himself and was just overjoyed with beginning his journey. It reminded him of himself after all. The same could be said about his grandson Gary, who was going to be starting his journey later today. Oak briefly wondered which Pokemon Ash would pick. He knew that Gary was favoring Squirtle and Bulbasaur. Oak had plenty of Pokemon to choose from, but the three main ones were favored by beginners who had the chance to pick them. Bulbasaur was rare but could be found in forests. Squirtle were rarer but could be found sometimes in tropical islands by themselves. But Charmander was by far the rarest of the three, but the hardest to raise. They resided in mountains with other dragons similar to themselves and were very hard to tame when wild. Arriving at the Oak Lab, Ash looked around in awe at all the high-tech equipment, not having a clue at what any did but still thought they looked cool. Here we are, Ash, these are the three standard Kanto starters. Bulbasaur, Squirtle, and Charmander. I have other choices if you'd like but they're out on the ranch. Explained Oak while gesturing to the three Pokeballs on the table. Ash closed his eyes in thought, this was a pretty big choice. Of the three, Bulbasaur was the easiest to raise. They grew naturally and eventually became status-inducing tanks when raised and evolved into Venusaur. Charmander was more difficult. If they didn't respect you, they wouldn't listen to you. Also, they were very powerful if trained properly, but the defense was lacking compared to the other two. Squirtle was his choice, strong and durable, could be tanks or bulldozers. They were amazing all around. I've made my choice, I'll pick Squirtle, declared Ash with a grin as he picked up the Pokeball with said Pokemon. Oak nodded and went over to his computer to withdraw another water type to replace it and grabbed the other supplies. Here you are, Ash, Oak said while handing the boy several items. 5 standard Pokeballs and a Pokédex. I would highly recommend using that device as often as possible as it can give you a wealth of knowledge quite easily. Not to mention it will help my research if you can document as many Pokemon as you come across. Also, it serves as your trainer ID, so don't lose it. Ash took in all that information with as much patience as he could muster. He just wanted to run out of here and begin his journey, but he managed to hold it in to listen to what the man had to say. With that said, I wish you luck on your journey. While a new resident, be sure to represent your Pallet Town pride. Cheered Oak as Ash exited the building. This is it, I've got a Pokemon, Pokeballs, and my license. I'm that much closer to being the champion. Look out, Lance. Here I come. While running en route, Ash reached back in front of his house, where he sees his mother was standing with some people and a green backpack in her hand. So, Ash, what Pokemon did you get? Delia asked. Well, you're in for a special surprise, Ash said, picking up his starter Pokemon, which Delia noticed. Everyone, this is my new Pokemon Squirtle. Well, Ash, your Squirtle is so cute. So are you ready to start your journey? Delia said. I am fully pumped up to start my journey, Mom, Ash said. That's good, Delia said. All that was left was Ash and his mom, and Serena, and her moms. Ash's mom gave him a green backpack. Okay, Ash, I put in some fresh clothes for you, also a first aid kit, gloves for laundry, emergency snacks, and super rod and some special Pokeballs you asked for, Delia said, handing Ash his backpack and some money. You're also going to get 2,000 Poke dollars for a little spending money. Now listen, Ash, I made sure you got some medicine in case any of you or your Pokemon get sick, a nice cookbook because you kids are going to need to learn how to cook your meals, soap and shampoo, and some special Pokemon food, Delia said. I'm so proud that you are off on your own, my baby, Jade said, wiping a tear. Not to worry, Mom, I am going to be just fine, Ash told his mom. All right then, Delia said as she gave Ash a big hug. Ash, I'm going to miss you. I want you to be very careful. Don't worry Mom, I will be fine, Ash told his mom. Afterward, Ash broke out of his mother's hugs, and now it was time for them to go. It was time for them to venture out into the big dangerous world of Pokemon. Take care, and I love you, Delia said to Ash. I love you too Mom, Ash replied. And after that, Ash went down the road to begin their Pokemon journey. Who knows what challenges will await them, what kind of Pokemon will they catch and make friends with, and how will Ash fulfill his dream of becoming a Pokemon master? Only time will tell what their journey awaits them, and then Delia called out to Ash one more time. Ash! Delia yelled out, causing Ash to turn around. Don't forget to change your underwear every day. Mom! Ash yelled, feeling embarrassed while Squirtle giggled. Now Squirtle, let's hit the road, start making new friends and get stronger together. Ash opened the Pokédex to see the Squirtle Moves set. Pokédex exclaimed. Squirtle! This tiny turtle Pokemon draws its long neck into its shell to launch incredible water attacks with amazing range and accuracy. The blasts can be quite powerful. This Squirtle is male. Known moves: Tackle, Tail Whip, and Aqua Jet. Ability: Torrent. Okay Squirtle, first things first. We need to get in some practice so I can get a feel for your speed and skills. Let's start with a tackle. Aim for that small tree, ordered Ash while pointing towards a small dying tree. Squirtle shouted an affirmative and lowered his head and began running at his top speed towards his target. The turtle Pokemon impacted the tree, causing it to crack and break apart. The tiny turtle Pokemon looked back at his trainer and growled out happily. Ash walked over and rubbed his starter on the head. That was excellent, we'll work on your speed, but that power was awesome, praised Ash. While the trainer and Pokemon walked side by side through the forest, Ash got a thoughtful look on his face. Would you want a name? Ash knew that nicknames were touch and go. It all depended on the Pokemon whether or not they would want another name or not. Squirtle looked down in thought for a second before nodding up to his trainer. Ash smiled and started thinking about potential names for a Squirtle. How about Hydro? Asked Ash. The name had something to do with water and could be remembered easily. A perfect name for a powerful water type. A shout from Squirtle and that sealed it. Okay Hydro, we've got some traveling to do until Viridian, but it shouldn't take too long if we hustle. His only Pokemon saluted and followed faithfully after his trainer. Ash and Hydro mindlessly walked through the route while the young boy started brainstorming about how to tackle the 8 gyms and what Pokemon he wanted. I'll need to have a strong variety to cover my bases. Squirtle will be at an incredible disadvantage against LT Surge with his electric type Pokemon, so maybe a ground or a rock type will help. If I get lucky, a steel type, but I'm not sure where one would be on the way there. Ash's musings were interrupted by a rustling in the trees. Hydro looked towards the source of the noise and readied himself. Out came a small bird that Ash immediately recognized as a Pidgey, but this one was different. Rather than the standard brown and cream colors, this one held the same cream-colored belly, but his ordinary brown-colored back was instead gold. A phenomenon in the wild that was so rare that people searched their whole lives to see and never do, yet here was one looking at him curiously not a couple of miles from his starting point. The first Pokemon he came across was shiny. Alright, get ready Hydro, we're going to catch it, ordered Ash, which got a growl of approval from the small Squirtle. The Pidgey recognized the situation and took to the air and started flying forward in an impressively fast quick attack. Wait for it to get close, then dodge to the right and hit it with an Aqua Jet. Pidgey, showing that it was still young, didn't understand what was happening and continued forward without change. Hydro sidestepped to the right as ordered, then surrounded himself with water and charged with all its might toward the bird. The bird squawked in pain but got up once again and flew around. Ash and Hydro watched closely. The Pidgey's wings both glowed brightly and flew quickly towards the tiny turtle and slammed into his shell. Hydro and Ash were caught off guard by the strength of the move as it caused Squirtle to fly back and impact a tree. Hydro growled in pain before shaking it off and taking a deep breath. He spewed a large amount of water, hitting the bird square in the chest, causing it to fall to the ground. "Amazing, Hydro, that was water gun," praised Ash before remembering what was happening. The boy pulled out a pokeball from his pocket and enlarged it before tossing it towards the bird with excellent precision. The shiny bird was enveloped by white light and sucked into the ball. The ball laid on the ground and shook violently, signifying that the bird was trying to get out. Ash and Hydro watched with anticipation as it continued to shake. After what seemed like an eternity, the button on the front blinked green and a click was heard. Pidgey was captured. Ash took out his Pokédex and scanned the ball. Pidgey, a flying Pokémon. It has an extremely strong sense of direction and is capable of returning to its nest no matter how far away it is and how unfamiliar the surroundings are. This Pidgey is female. Known moves: Peck, Quick Attack, Sand Attack, and Steel Wing. Ability: Keen Eye. Looks like our new teammate has quite the moveset. Let's say hello, said Ash before tossing Pidgey's ball to release the Pokémon. Pidgey looked around aimlessly before focusing on Ash and started squawking. Ash tried to understand while Hydro started talking back to the bird in a series of grunts and growls. "Pidgey," interrupted Ash, gets both Pokémon's attention in the process. "I know this is strange, but I've caught you and I would like it if you would be a member of my team. You can train with us to become a powerful Pidgeot." Pidgey looked down while hopping back and forth in thought before letting out a cry of affirmative, getting a smirk out of Hydro and a grin out of Ash. "Great. Welcome to the team. Would you like a name?" asked Ash before he was met with a shake of the bird's head. Ash nodded in understanding and returned both Pokémon to give them a rest while he continued. His first day was looking beyond good. He got an excellent Squirtle, now known as Hydro, then caught a shiny Pidgey, something completely unheard of. He just couldn't believe his luck. His first day was looking beyond good. He got an excellent Squirtle, now known as Hydro, then caught a shiny Pidgey, something completely unheard of. He just couldn't believe his luck. A few hours later and he could see Viridian in the distance. He didn't know much about the city itself, but he knew that the gym there was home to Giovanni, the ground-type trainer shrouded in mystery. The very few trainers that managed to challenge him rarely got to see his face and were quickly beaten by either his Nidoqueen or Nidoking. There were only rumors about the rest of his team, as the ones to beat him were tight-lipped about the info. Unfortunately, Ash couldn't challenge Giovanni yet, as he required at least 7 badges for entry. Most gyms have several teams to accommodate challengers of varying experience, but Giovanni was the exception. After your first gym battle, all following are at minimum 3-on-3, with numbers 6 through 8 were able to be 6-on-6. First-time trainers battled the rookie Pokémon to accommodate the challenges and give them an actual chance. Pewter was known as the easiest gym, but most never face Brock's Aerodactyl or Steelix. Ash planned on going towards Pewter to challenge the infamous Rock Gym. Pewter was a common starting ground for rookies, but that didn't mean it was a weak gym. After all, it took a special trainer to be considered for a gym position, let alone hold the title of leader. Of the known requirements, the hardest was beating all 8 main gyms with their specific specialization and having a variety of Pokémon of varying strengths to accommodate challengers of varying experience. Luckily, Ash managed to capture a Pidgey with a Steel Wing, not to mention Hydro was his best bet to take down the massive rock snake. He'll need to work on Water Gun and Steel Wing, but it should be enough. Maybe he could pick up another Pokémon on the way. However, Ash was far too picky to go out and find an Oddish, since they fall off the power spectrum compared to other grass types around Kanto. "Hey!" called a male voice from behind. Ash spun around to see a kid his age with spiky brown hair, a long-sleeve purple shirt and dark blue pants. He also had a yin-yang necklace and a bag slung over his shoulder. "I heard that the new kid left on his journey. Didn't think you'd run off ahead without a battle. The name's Gary Oak and I think we should have a battle." the grinning Gary said with a challenging smile. Ash nodded with a small smile. Ash Ketchum and I'd love a battle. This would be an interesting first battle, a relative of the legendary Samuel Oak. If he didn't pick Bulbasaur, this should be pretty easy. Gary responded with a smirk and tossed his ball forward, revealing a green dinosaur-like Pokemon who was sporting a smirk of his own. Ash shook his head, then narrowed his eyes in focus before releasing Hydro. Ready! Called Ash, getting a yell out of Hydro, who lowered himself to the ground on all fours. Gary and his Bulbasaur both had confident looks, Gary having a cocky smirk with his Pokemon mirroring the look while not even getting into a position. When you are, replied Gary. Hydro suddenly spun around and initiated a tail whip, lowering Bulbasaur's defenses, who responded to Gary's call for a tackle and rushed forward at impressive speed. Hydro jumped away from the initial attack, causing his opponent to spin on a dime and continue charging. Jump over it? Then come down with a tackle, ordered Ash. Following his master's order, Hydro leaped into the air, causing Bulbasaur to look up confused. Hydro let loose a roar and came down with all of his weight, tackling his fellow starter into the hard earth, getting a grunt of the pain out of Gary's green partner. Gary clenched his fist at the quick turnaround of this battle. Quick use growl, ordered Gary with a frown. One powerful tackle from Hydro did critical damage after the defensive lowering effects of the tail whip, a status effect that a moderately powerful Pokemon could brush off, but at their current levels was detrimental to the fight. In other words, Gary made a critical mistake that wouldn't matter later in their career as a trainer, but at their current level, it was the difference between a win and a loss. These thoughts went through Ash, and he knew that he could end this right now. Hydro hit him again, ordered Ash. It didn't take more than a second for the order to register and for Hydro to launch forward towards Bulbasaur. As he neared his opponent, he felt the effects of the tail whip but continued onwards, landing another tackle, this time putting down his opponent for good. Ash winced at the bruise that would no doubt cover Gary's Bulbasaur skull from the rough impact. Gary lowered his head in defeat. This was a good learning experience. He made the mistake of going on the offense right away and disregarding status-affecting moves, and it cost him. Not something he would ever forget again. You're a good trainer, Ash. Represent Pallet Town well, and I'll see you around for another battle. He hated acting like he was happy after his first loss, but his grandpa would be on his ass if he acted like a jerk to the new kid. He needed to catch some more Pokemon soon so he could begin training. Ash smiled and recalled Hydro. Thanks, I knew the only way I'd win was to lower your defenses since you had the type advantage. Gary frowned at his lack of forethought. He assumed that Bulbasaur would blast through the blue turtle with the same ease he did the Pidgey he fought earlier. But it was for naught. Now he learned a lesson that he'll never forget. Well, I think we should have another battle, and next time more than one-on-one. See ya around. Gary then ran off to continue his training and catch more team members and heal from his loss. On the bright side, however, he found a nice rival to add to the list, and he had a feeling that this one would go further than his other friends. Ash started to walk toward the Viridian City. Along the way he saw a small river near. He thought to use his super rod there and special balls there. So he sat down on a small cliff and put the rod in the water. And also called his trusted friend Hydro by his side. Ash sat there for 2 hours. He caught some great Pokemon for his team. They are Poliwhirl, Gyarados, Psyduck, and 2 Slowpoke. Ash started his journey back to Viridian City with a girl with orange hair. How he caught these Pokemon we will discuss in new video. That's all for today. Thanks for watching and subscribe the channel for new interesting videos.